Take 3. Hello my YouTube lovelies, and welcome to this episode 9, Window to the Heavens. If you're new to the channel and this is your first time, it would be great if you give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and come along and enjoy the journey, and go back in time and look at the episodes thus far, documenting the build, etc. So this particular one is talking about the skylight above me, and in the previous episode I said where the build to date, in terms of all of the construction of the furniture, etc., had sort of come to a sort of a final point. The next 3 episodes, all of the work is done by external companies. Now, the reason I chose the particular route to go with other places is mainly due to, I guess, a fear of my own abilities and not wanting to fuck things up, and B, sometimes I kind of have the mindset that, you know, if there's a company out there that does it properly, I'd rather spend the money and put the bread on someone else's table and spread the joy, so to speak, and at least get a job that's done properly and with some kind of warranty, and also, you know, if there ever was a problem, I've got somewhere that I can go back to. Not everyone goes down this route, and you don't necessarily have to go down this route. The next 3 big jobs that get done on the van are all possible to be done by yourselves, but due to the fact that I was living in the van at the time and was also sort of back at work in a full-time job, the time that I had to do these particular next projects, I didn't really have that time, so to speak, so I went down the route of actually getting it done externally by professional companies. So yeah, this is kind of the path that I took, and in hindsight, yes, it's an expensive path to take, and I could have cut the costs a lot more had I done it myself, but this is the path I chose anyway. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's your van build. How you go about doing what you want to do is totally up to you, and it's all within your own confines, I guess, A, budget, and B, your own abilities and skills, and whether you have the time to do those things. So the skylight above me, originally I was wanting to put 2 in, and the thought was that there's this one here above my head, which is above the main living area. It was close to the area where I do my cooking, so I had the ability to vent above my head. It gave me the maximum light in the area that I spend most of the time, you know, during the daytime or even in the evening. This is where I spend the bulk of my time, in this part of the van. But the thought was originally to put another skylight towards the back of the van, either above the bed or sort of near the sort of cupboard area, but not knowing the size of the panel that I was going to put on in the future with regards to the solar panel, etc., I decided to just opt for the one skylight, and at a later date potentially put another one in. A later date has come, and I'm still here just with the one skylight, and I do often think, oh, it would have been nice to have one further back, and there probably is just about space to put one further back, but, you know, I've managed this far just with the one, so, you know, we'll stay as we are, eh? The skylight I bought from a small company called O'Leary Motorhome Sales and Parts, and they're just outside of Beverley in East Yorkshire. And the skylight that I bought was the Dometic Mini Heki skylight. I think it cost me about 95 quid or something like that. And what O'Leary, it's a small little company which sell all kinds of parts for caravans and for self-builds, etc. And they had a contact just up the road in a small industrial estate that did out vans. So once I'd bought it, I'd booked in to go down the road in the afternoon and pulled into the garage. It was kind of like a small warehouse on a farm or an industrial estate, I think. And the guys installed this for me, and they did it in really, really quick time. Lovely bunch of guys. It was just the one guy who did the light for me, and it was quite reasonable as well. I think it was about £60 or something like that to get it installed. So yeah, it wasn't too expensive. So the start of this particular section, because I'd insulated the ceiling, so it had the Reflectix, the Kingspan, and then another layer of Reflectix. Because I knew that the Skylight was going to go in this panel, the only thing it had was the Reflectix on the ceiling. So the first thing was to mark out exactly where it was going to go. That particular piece was then cut out, and the area was then marked up. If I remember right, he drilled holes in all four corners, and then I guess went up onto the roof and then marked out the 4 lines joining said 4 holes. And then he proceeded to cut the 4 lines joining the holes. Now, because I'd already had all the furniture in here and everything, because I was living in it at the time, they were gracious enough to cover up the kitchen area, to put blankets all over. I think they even put a blanket to cover so that no sparks would go off into the bedroom area. They covered the sofa, etc. So they did a really nice job of trying to protect what was a fairly new interior that had been built. And I think he went in with quite a large sort of grinding disc, if I remember, and just cut away, and there we were, covered in a wall of sparks. But it was quite exciting to sort of watch it, and obviously I was filming this, and just sort of seeing this hole appear in the roof of my van was quite daunting. And I was thinking to myself, God, if I'd have done this myself, I would have been outside, and it was November, if I remember right. So you know, I was kind of thankful that I found these guys that would do it, and I was inside a unit, under shelter, etc. Because yeah, had I been doing it, it would have been taking me all day, I'd imagine. Once the hole is taken out, the shape of an Iveco daily roof is quite complicated. I don't know what it is about the way the roofs are done here, but there's sort of areas, it looks like it's manufactured in some kind of way, that they've put areas on the roof where you could potentially cut out some kind of skylight or what have not. So it looks like there's these sort of square sort of shapes where they've done that. But it has these weird angles and various things, so it's not a sort of uniform grooves all the way through the whole length of the roof. It's quite a weird design. So once that hole is revealed, you can see all of the sort of undulations and different levels within the ceiling and the roof, etc., and where these gaps are. So if I remember right, what he did, he built a 2x1 frame which sat on the inside. He screwed that 2x1 frame into the roof, or glued it in, and once that was in, he was able to then see where all of the gaps were, so where all the differences in height were, and then he used 2x1 blocks of wood and filled in all of those gaps. So now you've got no give or play at all between where the roof vent is going to sit and the top of the ceiling. So he basically sandwiches all of those holes or little gaps that are in the roof stroke ceiling. Once he's done that, he then put the top skylight in, and I think I didn't quite see this part, but I think he put like a mastic, so where there are sort of deviations in levels on top, he would put mastic in there to sort of build the layers up, and then I think there was just a big bond of some kind of glue that he put down, and then the roof piece went on. I think that was screwed in a couple of places to the wooden frame underneath. Once he'd done that, he then installed a frame that sits on the inside, and that sort of clips to the main roof part, so that's all screwed together. There are a number of screws. I think there's what, 1, 2, 3 by the looks of it, 3 screws down each side, I think, and then that's screwed into the roof light above. And then once that's put in, you've then got the surrounding piece, so this piece here all around, which is the finishing piece, which has a skirt all the way around it, that then is clipped to the inside frame. And that was basically it. I think it took him about an hour, maybe less than an hour. They were really, really efficient, and the look and the change that it did was amazing. Yeah, bearing in mind that the whole ethos behind this is to try and keep this stealth. So I guess that is a reason why I probably only stuck with the one skylight as well, because it is fairly discreet. Yes, you can see it from a distance, but when you're up close you don't really notice. The Skylight is just really simple. There's no fan in it, there's no winding up things, it's just a simple push up on one side to let some air out, put up the next side, and that's it. Really, really simple. There is a blackout screen which comes across, and then there's also a fly screen. Very rarely use that. And that's it. I mean, I guess the only issues that you get with it is if it's windy outside, there's some sort of draft here, so you'll have this in, and this will sort of like bounce up and down, so you just get this tiny little sound. I don't know if you can hear that, which can be a bit irritating. So if it's really cold or particularly windy, what I do is I have this is sort of like a sound insulation used for making sound studios, recording studios. So I had a piece of this at work, so this is cut, and I basically stuff this up into the window here, and then put across my blind, and then that kind of like seals the air gap. I mean, you do get it moving ever so slightly if it's really, really windy, but it's not too bad, and it just sort of gives me that extra level of insulation, because ultimately this is just plastic here, so when it is cold this does let in a little bit of draft, so yeah, using a sponge does make a difference. Okay, that's it for this episode. The next episode, episode 10, is talking about the installation of the diesel heater. Again, if you've liked this, please give us a thumbs up, and if you want to continue this journey with me, it'd be great to have you on board and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.